Being the son of Michael Schumacher, Mick was always destined to have people doubting his F1 credentials. He's had a rocky season so far, at best coming 12th and writing off 2 cars in the process. Yes, Steiner was not impressed. In this video, we'll give you a lowdown of which F1 legends are cheering him on and which are ruling him out. You'll want to watch the entire video as there are some polarizing views on Mick's potential, and today we're going to lay them all out. First up, Felipe Massa. If you're new to F1, you may not know Felipe. Having competed in 15 seasons of F1, he's a legend for sure. In 2008, he missed out on winning a championship by a single point. Massa's connection with Mick's father is very special. They both were teammates for Ferrari in 2009, which was also Michael's last championship run. On several different occasions, Massa has cited Michael as his mentor. But before establishing a mentor-mentee relationship, Massa's biggest challenge was to make a name for himself while living in the unmatchable Schumacher shadow. So if there's anyone who knows how it feels like to get crushed under the Schumacher label, it's Massa. And it makes sense why he feels so overprotective about Mick. He has made it clear that Mick's biggest burden throughout his career is going to be his surname. But according to Massa, Mick's faltering performance in his rookie F1 year isn't entirely credited to the pressure he was presumably feeling due to his dad's legacy. The legendary Brazilian believes that Haas has the worst car in the F1 circuit, and Mick's former teammate, Mazepin, had no idea what he was doing. It seems like for Massa, Haas is the team where F1 drivers go to kill their careers. Next up, Gunther Steiner. Steiner isn't exactly an F1 legend, but there's no denying that he's the boss man for Haas F1 team. As Mick's boss, he has a lot to say about emerging talent. And nope, it's not always sunshine and rainbows in the Haas camp. Remember that very first episode of Drive to Survive when we saw Steiner showing some real leadership skills by taking the front in owning up to his team's mistakes with the loose tires. He's not the same Steiner anymore. After Mick's 2 devastating car crashes, he told Sky Deutschland, "I'm not going to be the scapegoat for the fact that things haven't gone as planned for Mick this year. The fact that he has no points is a fact. The 2 accidents too. No team would be happy about that. But it's complete nonsense that we put Mick at a disadvantage or under unnecessary pressure. Honestly, we were disappointed but not shocked when Haas suffered some pretty expensive crashes in Saudi Arabia and Monaco at the hands of Mick Schumacher. Steiner believes that Mick isn't a seasoned driver to take on cars that are above his F2 level of comfort. Come on, imagine losing important qualifiers and sprinters because your car sucks, and you still come out as the only team in the 2022 season without an upgrade. Make it make sense, Steiner. Up next, the legendary former CEO of F1, Bernie Ecclestone. Who knew Mick would find his Formula 1 guardian angel in Ecclestone? The legendary former Formula 1 CEO Bernie Ecclestone is particularly not happy about how Steiner went off on Mick. He even went as far as to remind Steiner that Mick's father can show him his real place if he wants to. Yep, maybe that's the bad blood we were fishing for this season. Ecclestone called out Steiner, publicly criticizing his driver in some of the toughest times in Mick's career. Instead, Steiner should have invested his energy in upgrading the car. We hate to be the bearer of bad news, Bernie, but with Magnussen's decent results, we might see Mick teamless real soon. Now, Ecclestone believes that driving with either Mercedes or Red Bull is the best career move for Mick. Both of the teams are heavy on maximizing the potential their drivers have through some solid manufacturing innovation and engineering breakthroughs. Exhibit A is Max Verstappen, who has inspired Red Bull to build a car that suits his driving style and temperament. And that's how he bagged the 2021 championship against the veterans, such as Ricciardo, who was once his experienced teammate. Coming up next, Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton is hands down the nicest legend and F1 pro to ever drive on the tracks. You can see his passion for the sport and its future when he constantly praising new talents that are making strides. The Mercedes driver is particularly fond of Mick Schumacher, and to everyone's surprise, he's even managed to appreciate the rookie without bringing up his famous dad. You'll expect Mick to turn to his dad for advice on and off the tracks, but he's definitely looking to gain versatility in his drive as he's actively turning to champions like Hamilton for tips and tricks. According to Hamilton, Mick is one of the prospects that will shape the sport, so he's incredibly proud of new blood like Mick Schumacher. Talking to Sky Sports F1, he said, "I'm speaking with Mick, who's such a lovely lad, and he's saying things like, I don't know everything. Is there any way you can educate me?" Next on our list is Sebastian Vettel. If Mick has the ultimate legendary friend and mentor in Formula 1, it's Sebastian Vettel. The 4 times world champion and Aston Martin's best bet had his mentor in Michael Schumacher, who happens to be one of the biggest F1 names and Mick's dad. Now, you'll assume that by mentoring Mick, he's just returning a favor to Michael, but no. Vettel has made it very clear on different accounts that his relationship with Mick is independent of his friendship with his dad. He also emphasized that his trust and belief in Mick's Formula One prospect is because of his incredible runs on the track. As Mick Schumacher climbed the Formula 3 and 2 ladders in a fashion unknown to most drivers, we were convinced that he's another Michael Schumacher in the making. Like father, like son comparisons have loomed over Mick's impressive stats and podiums as far as we can remember. But it's obvious that Vettel is actively pulling Mick out of his father's shadow. When Mick scored his first F1 points in 2022 after a dry season, Vettel was waiting for his mentee on the other side of the line. As soon as Mick pulled through after battling with Verstappen, there were many happy faces in the crowd. Yet Vettel stood out as he hugged the rookie to congratulate him. There is also no denying that Mick is in awe of Vettel and idolizes him inside and outside the sport. And finally, Nikita Mazepin. Mazepin doesn't have any F1 titles or impressive podiums under his wing, but he has spent his F1 career either battling it out with Mick or quite shockingly speaking in his support. We also can't ignore the fact that Nikita Mazepin didn't get along with anyone in the Haas camp, especially Mick. Mazepin isn't exactly an F1 legend, but his opinions on Mick were as explosive and heated as it gets. We still aren't over that hilarious yet thrilling moment when Mick took over Mazepin during the final laps of the Dutch GP qualifier. As Mick and Mazepin almost came side to side ahead of the penultimate corner and almost knocked over Vettel, it was obvious that Haas's Russian driver was furious at Mick for breaking the house rules that they had set before the 2021 season started. And he made sure that the media understood his frustration against Mick and his annoying tendency to fight for P19. Haas ended up with the last spots on the grid, yet Mick somehow maintained his innocence in the chaos, citing that taking over your teammate was never against the rules. Even with this bad blood, Mazepin spoke in Mick's support when Steiner publicly grilled the rookie after 2 heavy car crashes. Granted, Mick and Mazepin aren't the best of friends, but it didn't stop him from saying the following: "I don't know many people who read negative news about themselves and then drove better. If public criticism does help someone, then great. But I think it's more useful to personally sit down with a person and express everything one-to-one." For Mick, the Schumacher name is both a blessing and a curse. His last name will take him to places within the league and will always keep the influx of media attention and fans up. Yet some unforgiving expectations to score a championship with a Haas car is no easy feat for Mick. It's certain that some big names in F1 trust in Schumacher Jr.'s skills. It's just a matter of time before we potentially see Mick topping some podiums. In Mick, we trust.